And hello, fight fans. Welcome to the seventh episode of Before the Ballman Speaks. I'm your host, as always, Andrew Lawrence. Thank you for spending a very late evening with me. This is following Fight Night, UFC Fight Night 71, Mir versus Todd Duffee in a fantastic knockout victory for Frank Mir, his second in a row. A unexpected, shall we say, resurgence for Mr. Frank Mir. He definitely was on a stark decline, I think, of losing 4 in a row at some point to heavy competition, including the former heavyweight champion Cain Velasquez. I believe his comeback victory was against Bigfoot Silva in a fantastic fight in Brazil. But nonetheless, he scores his second fantastic KO victory in a row against a very game and a very highly touted Todd Duffee, a young, relatively young for the heavyweight division, heavyweight fighter, and completely starched him in the middle of the first round. A back and forth rock and sock and robots kind of battle, as our man John Anik likes to say, and just kind of the case where Todd Duffee got a little confidence, started, faced some adversity at the beginning, took a couple of big shots from Frank Mir, and then kind of let his own hands fly and found a home for some of those blows. Frank, looked like he was stumbling, but kind of maybe playing possum a little bit there. Seemed to be baiting him into it, still had his wits about him despite taking some shots. We've seen Frank Mir take a lot of damage, even recently. And still kind of keep ticking. I keep going back to kind of that Alistair Overeem fight on the Super Bowl before last, where he just took an incredibly brutal beating throughout all the rounds of the fight, and still managed to stay conscious. Definitely not ever in the position to win the fight, but definitely in a position to stay conscious and stay dangerous with submissions in that fight. In this fight, it seemed like he kept his wits about him, looked like he was a little bit hurt, baited him in, and then just found a home for that hook. Todd Duffee was clearly not thinking defensively in his striking in that moment, and it just hit him flush, completely knocked him out. Today's show, our guest today will be Mike James from FuriousFightPicks.com, and you can catch him on Twitter. I think it is Mike at Mike MMA Picks on Twitter. And most of you who watch the show know Mike James and his service, a fantastic bettor and an all-around funny dude. In the co-main event, Tony Ferguson put on an absolute clinic against Josh Thompson. Unfortunately for Josh Thompson, it seems like he may have reached the end of the road for his career. Maybe he takes a fight or two, following this loss. And he showed such grit and heart and determination, but that's really all that he had to show for the fight. A couple moments where he shined just always seemed to be outclassed by Tony landing very dangerous and very ruthless shots. Tony Ferguson looked fantastic tonight. Looked like an absolute, killer, a Joe Rogan-esque murderer. In the fight, just really, the problem with Tony Ferguson and the problem that continues to be for Tony Ferguson is that he's willing to give up position over the he's willing to give up position, period, whether it's to take a sub or just to make a weird transition in the stand-up. Multiple times in this fight he went for rolls and he went for bizarre submission attempts and level changes that he ended up turning his back to him. He led with his left shoulder and allowed, Josh to circle, Josh circling to his right, Tony circling to his left, and let him get behind his back and kind of, did the behind the back look across the shoulder, which was very interesting and not all that successful. But when Tony wants to put it together. He puts accurate punches directly on people's jaw. We saw elbows landed. We saw some pretty nasty submission attempts. Tony Ferguson Tony Ferguson's guard game is probably one of the only legitimate guard games that's threatening in the 155-pound division. You know, the days of Joe Lozon tapping people from his back, I think, are over. But a dude like Tony Ferguson just has an unorthodox way about him that most people aren't used to training for. He's constantly grabbing at things. He hasn't got, many finishes, but God damn it, if people who take top position on Tony Ferguson, look good in that position. We're now calling in to all right. Okay, hold on one second here. We're calling into to Mike James from Furious Fight Picks. Unfortunately, I had given him an incorrect link. Of course. All right, so he'll be joining us any minute now, and we'll get his take from the co-main event and the main event. Some pretty lackluster stuff along the way in the main card. The only real other highlight being Alan Gibran's fight with Matt Dwyer. Matt Dwyer shown to be absolutely game at he was a huge dog, I believe. He was nearly a plus 400 dog at fight time, and that did not show in this fight. While Gibran did outclass him and really worked him, particularly in that second round, Matt Dwyer showed himself to be very durable. Had some early success with a knockdown on Alan Gibran, but then Gibran just cruised and took over his fight. But we'll get back to this fight and circle in. And now joining us here from the mean streets of Boston, Massachusetts, it's Mike James. How you doing, Mike?
Pretty good. How are you? It was a good night of fights.
Yeah, pretty good night. A little lackluster, I'd say, in the preliminaries to put it nicely. But the main event and the co-main event delivered in spades.
Yeah, it got pretty dull there for a pretty good section of fights. But the co-main and main event were pretty good. My main event also was a fireworks, so that was pretty good and short and sweet. Pretty expected and pretty. Someone was going to sleep in that one.
Yeah, it was pretty much a lot of what everyone kind of thought might happen with two big guys in there, and pretty welcome from my side of it. You start getting around 1 a.m. here on the East Coast, and you're looking for that quick finish. It seemed almost like Fox Sports was looking for it too.
Yeah, they kept on playing like the promotional stuff before. I was like, it's getting friggin' late here. I gotta start. It's like almost 1 a.m. and the main event just going on. People staying up to watch this. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is kind of insane. I've always thought that, even just a 1 hour shift forward would just be a lot more logical to accommodate East Coast, but I guess they really only care about that West Coast draw. All right, so let's talk about the main event itself. Todd Duffee getting blasted in the first round by Frank Mir, his second KO victory in a row. What do you see for Frank Mir? When you see him out there technically, are we actually seeing a resurgence from him, or are we just seeing some kind of happenstance where he got two lucky KOs?
He's definitely made some improvements in his striking. He has, better technique, a lot better technical aspects of his footwork and movement. He's looking to counter and parry. Duffy was swinging wildly. He came in with wild winging shots, and Mir countered beautifully down the middle with those punches. So he's definitely made some improvements in those areas, and he's getting better. Honestly, I thought he even made some improvements before the last two fights. He just, he faced tough guys. He fought Cormier, Overeem, guys that are the best in the division. So. I don't know, how high he can really go anymore, but he can still put, some hang in there with, some of the best guys in the division. He's not going to win the title or anything, but he can still be a good draw for the UFC for a few more fights at least.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that I'd kind of dismissed Mir a little bit, and and thought that he probably couldn't even hang with, these guys who are 15, 12, 18 ranked guys. I thought that he was done to the point where, he shouldn't even be fighting those guys. Today really changed my opinion. Besides that, like top 10 really, great athletic veteran level of the UFC, Frank Mir is still gonna, put it on you. I've referenced the Alistair Overeem or fight in a example of why I was so impressed with Frank Mir's chin, despite his age and despite the KOs he's taken. In that fight, he got blasted multiple times and never went away. Clearly lost every single round, but still didn't get KO'd. And a guy like Frank Mir, if he can maintain that chin, he's gonna beat these younger fighters who are just less savvy.
Yeah, it's tough with certain guys. Guys that have good takedown defense. It honestly doesn't have the best wrestling. More active, more technical on the feet are gonna beat him, give him trouble. It's why he lost to the Junior Dos Santoses and the guys that are more aggressive. But he hung in there with Duffee, who was just overcommitted on his punches. Made some technical errors and mistakes. Didn't show the best technique. Just tried to go out there brute force and aggression, and he paid the price for it.
Now let me ask you about that. I interpreted a little bit that Todd Duffee did let the emotion of the fight get to him a bit here, especially once the tide turned. He took some early shots and then he caught Mir a bit. I think that he got a little over emotional and kind of left himself exposed because he was committing to trying to find that like finishing blow. Do you feel the same way, or do you feel like this was just a technical mistake that was very much in line with how he fights?
Well, it's Todd Duffee. He gets by on athleticism and brute strength more than raw technique and savvy. He's not the guy that's gonna go out there and look to out technique you. He's gonna try to rip your head off, with brute force and aggression. So, it's kind of in line with what I expect from him. So it's kind of this. That's why I bet the under big. It's kind of who got who first.
Yeah, definitely. The under being a really smart play in this fight. Let's move to a fighter who actually does kind of marry that brute strength and technique in Tony Ferguson. A guy who the sky may be the limit for his potential. Really needs to shore up some parts of his game, kind of positional wise. Seems to always want to do something wild and crazy and risky for pursuing that finish, but definitely a guy who can bang, and definitely a guy who can take a few shots as well. What do you think about Tony and his performance tonight?
I've been high on Ferguson for a long time. People that follow me, I've bet on him for like 4 fights in a row, last 4 or 5 fights. This fight, I was, I question mark is the Castillo fight. He makes some mistakes, fight IQ mistakes, going for chokes when he shouldn't, giving up position, that sort of thing. He's very good with this length and control of distance, and he has good power, good submissions. He's been working with Eddie Bravo, shoring that up there. He's very good in a lot of areas, and he has a high ceiling. He's out a long time with the injury. I think his forearm, and he broke that in the Michael Johnson fight. Like that's his only loss in the UFC. So he definitely looked good tonight. He really beat up Thompson. Gave him some real trouble with that length and power. Made him pay for some exchanges. Really showed off the power and athleticism. Still showed off some mistakes. Going for some things when he shouldn't have, but that's his game. He's gonna go for that wild stuff, and if it's not gonna work on some guys, it's just really not. He goes up against someone like Khabib or someone like that. I don't think that's really gonna work. So we'll see what happens, but I'm excited for his future.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat with he'll find the ceiling where either he'll take the L and learn that sometimes you can't go for this wild and crazy stuff, or that's just who he's going to be, and he's going to naturally find his level as a number 5, number 6 guy, because he's always going to pull that wild shit. We had some other if we're going kind of sequentially backwards in the card, we had some stinkers in the next couple fight, in my opinion. Holly Holm putting it on this poor girl,
Renault.
Renault. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Renault, just athlete, less of an
Yeah, it looked like
athlete.
she was a 30-year-old gym teacher, didn't it?
Exactly. You're talking about Holly Holm, who has the body of a fighter, especially one she likes to utilize all those big kicks. And keeping her outside of her range completely, with a long leg spans. Poor Renault just couldn't get anything going, and just looked completely outclassed in a pretty boring event. What did you take from it?
Yeah, it wasn't the greatest fight. Renault literally did nothing, but somehow won the first round, according to Mike Beltran. I don't know how that happened. He must be betting the point handicap live, like I do, because I couldn't see how he. First round, she was literally just stood there and did nothing, but like stare at Holly on the outside. Holly, did a good job utilizing her kicks to control the range, control distance. Getting in and out with her combinations, punch, kick, ending the combinations with the kicks upstairs, and to all levels really. And she really just, she got off when she wanted, but did she really impress me? No, not really. She gonna beat Ronda Rousey? Obviously not. Not
Yeah.
not anytime soon. Anyways, actually never. Probably she's too late in her career. She's gonna get smoked if she goes up. They put her in the same cage as Ronda. She hasn't showed that finishing ability at the UFC level. She was at the RFA and the smaller shows when she was fighting. These girls nobody ever heard of, but she has some work to do. She could show some more finishing, aggression, I would say. But she looked better than she did against Pennington. Let's give her that. But Renault didn't do anything. Like she barely even tried to do anything. It was a terrible fight.
Yeah, she was clearly kind of stutter stopped, I think, and just confused by the whole range game that Holly was playing. Yeah, yeah, I'm with you there. I think Holly Holm was a little bit better at landing completely accurate and flush punches this time around, as opposed to her first fight, where she was just kind of throwing the blows and just seeing where they land. But there was a little bit of that still in this fight. I think she progresses a little bit, but it may be, that she's just too little, too late, and that she'll get up, in age before she can, be a threat to Ronda in any skill level. So they'll probably feed her to Ronda well before she'd actually be ready enough to, be a threat. Or maybe she could never be a threat to Ronda. Ronda's submission and judo game seemed like, it could work against nearly everyone in the division.
Yeah, I don't like her nerves either. She seems to get really nervous, and I don't see how she'd be able to handle a main event against Ronda.
That might be a thing too. You mentioned Mike Beltran was the one who scored that.
Yeah,
Is that the judge with the
yeah,
facial hair and the mustache? That guy?
yeah.
He looks like a guy who would definitely do some collusion. I'm not making accusations, but if I were to bet on any of the judges being involved in some throw a fight for a gambling bet because of
Yeah, it cost
bad
us
drug debt.
money, and they were offering the live point handicaps, and seemed to hit, on the nice underdog side for him.
Oh
Maybe.
yeah, a little payday maybe doing it for the bosses when they're you know they need to juice up the figures. This gate didn't make enough money for him. Manny Gambarian against Scott Jorgensen, another just dull fight for me. Two guys who really might not be UFC caliber anymore.
Yeah, wasn't the greatest fight. He had several near finishes in the first round. Gambarian nearly put him away. I thought Jorgensen was out at one period, and it looked like his eyes rolled back, and then he woke up, like woken back up, kind of like a Shogun Dan Henderson chew kind of thing.
I must have missed that. I didn't notice that he got knocked down so bad.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought he was knocked out at one point there, but after that, it was kind of dull. They kind of just, got into a real boring type fight. Yeah, it was just very unforgettable type fight. Does
Yeah,
really nothing for Manny right now.
yeah, I think.
Wilkinson's probably gonna on the brink of retirement.
Yeah, I think Manny it was too big for Scott, and just could bully him around after he'd beat him up a little bit. Scott Jorgensen, you mentioned retiring. You think he should? You think he's done?
It's not looking good. At his age, someone that his wrestling and he's just not. Where's he going at this point? Where's the UFC? I mean, he could probably fight. I'll do that. I mean, it
Mike's
doesn't
cutting
really
out
matter.
on us a
Because
little bit. Yeah,
hello.
we cut off a little bit on your response there against it, but it's probably for the best. This
Yeah,
fight
he's
didn't
going
go
on.
really
Just,
anywhere, and yeah, if you can we might try to reconnect you. We'll just try to go forward with it and see if it gets any better. It might just be a hiccup on the internet. And then we get into the preliminary. Oh no, we missed two other fights in the main card. Kevin Lee with a fantastic but very quick submission win, and Alan Jouban in probably one of the two fight of the nights that could have really been his fight and Ferguson and Thompson's fight. But Alan Jouban, Matt Dwyer, I think that fight was even a little bit closer. Alan Jouban clearly taking the victory, won the unanimous decision. Clearly a guy the UFC wants to market. A handsome fellow. They push the model actor angle a lot. We saw some holes in his striking defense. Alan Jouban, too old to really make a title, but you think he can become something like a name, an attraction?
not really. I mean, I was on Joe Ban pretty big in this fight, but that's because he was fighting Matt Dwyer. I mean, he's not going to be like a top 10 guy or anything, but he's got some solid skills. He can strike. He can good. He's working on his ground game. He's going to be a solid fighter, but he's like you said, he's not going to make a title run or anything.
Yeah.
Probably for the UFC, but that's it.
Okay. Yeah. So Ali Jouban probably still reaping the benefits of that robbery in Brazil and kind of fan popularity right now, but has been involved in some really exciting fights. Has the potential to win some of these Fight of the Night awards. Hopefully, he steals this one. I imagine his payday is far less than Tony Ferguson's, and he could use the money. And I feel like their fight was a little bit more competitive, so I hope he gets the nod there. We could skip over Kevin Lee and James Mutasari.
I can't believe that fight went to the decision, though.
Oh, good God, yeah. Matt Dwyer took an ass whooping.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it because Dwyer's chin and striking defense haven't been good in the past. I can't believe he survived that.
If you just take a quick Wikipedia gander at Matt Dwyer, you're not talking about an Iron Man out there. He's clearly a person who can be put away. And some of those shots that Jouban landed, I thought for sure would end it. I have this theory that sometimes a fighter in a fight takes a certain amount of damage, and it's such a gross amount of damage, and it might be over the amount of damage that would normally knock them out and put them away. But once they go past this peak level of damage, you could land every shot in the book. They're just not going to go unconscious. The brain just turns off almost the ability to go unconscious for some fighters. And I almost feel like that was one of these fights with Dwyer. He just ate so many shots that would have napped anyone else, but he stayed in it. Anything on the preliminary card that stuck out to you? I mean, we had some really lackluster decisions, some really forgettable fights.
Well, I thought Kevin Lee had a good performance. He really got a good quick submission. He's been known as a decision guy thus far in his UFC career. I was happy to see him get a quick submission. Well, mainly because I bet him, but it was good that I didn't have to sweat that.
It's always nice when they cash quick. Kevin Lee, I thought, looked like, super quick today. Just his speed out there. It made me take notice. I went back in my notes and I looked at my other Kevin Lee fight notes and I don't see anything. Like, I'm clearly not very impressed with him. I was super impressed with him. This time, super athlete. And really slick in the grappling. And there was a moment there against Mutasari where they were really fighting for position. It could have been that, he got his back or he didn't. And, he would have flopped in and been playing guard. But, he stuck with it and fought through that spot. And, that rear naked choke seemed to just appear out of nowhere.
Yeah, he did a good performance. Like I said, he's been known as more of a decision guy this far in his career. It's good that he got a finish this time out. Move him up the ladder, get him a bigger name. He's a young kid. He's only lost to Ally at Quint, so he's someone to watch out for.
Yeah, I definitely think he has some real potential there. Let's run through these the preliminary card fights here, and then we'll wrap it up with some final thoughts. Sam Cecilia decisions. Meza looked old. Meza looked, like MMA is passed by his skill set, unfortunately. What do you think about Sam?
That was definitely not the fight that I was anticipating. So many near bad submission attempts. Cecilia, I was on Cecilia. I bet, I was nervous. Him giving up, position and pulling guard and for submission guillotines and anticipating. I thought Cecilia talked a lot about wanting a post-fight bonus, and I thought he was going to go out and look for the knockout here. But yeah, Cecilia is going to be like that for his whole career. She hasn't shown the best fight IQ, and Yatsun Meza, so he should probably find a new career.
Yeah, Jessica Andrade just puts a whooping on Sarah Moraes, despite a really late rear naked choke attempt from Moraes. Andrade floats around the top 10 for the next couple of years, and pretty shallow 135-pound women's division.
Yeah, she's a pretty skilled fighter, but she's very small for the division. She should really be like a flyweight. I mean not a fly. 125 pounder.
Yeah, strawweight. Yeah.
Flyweight.
125 or flyweight.
Yeah, she could probably even make strawweight. Honestly, she's got a very small frame. She got really bullied by Liz Carmouche. She's not going to beat the top girls in the division, but she can beat these lower unranked girls. She's got based just on skill alone. And technique.
Yeah, Andrade. If you put Andrade and Rousey, next to each other, you realize the huge size difference that she has against the bigger girls in the division. Clearly, a limitation there until UFC gets a 125-pound division.
Yeah, if I was her, I'd try to see if she's honestly that small.
Yeah, I think actually, she really is. Rani Yaha takes a split decision against
questionable.
Yeah, very questionable decision there. I scored 1 and 2, I believe, for Rani, but mostly out of apathy. It wasn't the most exciting fight in the world.
No, it was not even worth mentioning. Honestly, it was a terrible, boring fight.
Moving on, we had Igor Iral. Sean Strickland beat the shit out of poor guy. Sean Strickland, changing weight divisions, supposed to, kind of getting the slow start in this division, against a not that talented fighter. Do we give Sean Strickland some hope, or are we just thinking it is more of a function of his opponent's lack of skills than his own talent?
He's got talent. He's got good athleticism and power, but he goes some moments of aggression, and then he won't do anything for a long period of time, and then he has these periods of inactivity. Like he talks about that going into this fight, like how he needs to be more aggressive. He showed that in spurts, like in the first round, he almost got him out of there. Then you took periods off. He obviously won the fight. Does it really do anything for him? Not really. He gets a win though, so he gets another attempt at it. So.
Yeah,
he's still young, so we'll see.
Yeah, he can always grow into into almost a finishing instinct, and we'll see if that kind of develops for him at this weight class. I think a lot of times when you're making that change, also fighters kind of want to see how far they can stretch the cardio, how it seems to go a full fight. And in a case like that, where he didn't get the KO, where he had a couple opportunities where it might happen, he might have made the decision to kind of take the foot off the pedal. King Kevin Casey the king himself knocked out Alcantara. Oh no, it went to decision, didn't it?
Yeah.
Really a fight where he put it on him early and then kind of took his foot off the pedal again. Alcantara, usually known for some good jiu-jitsu, clearly was fearing Casey's jiu-jitsu, which speaks to his pedigree and the type of team that he rolls with.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Casey, I mean, Alcantara, middleweight, those Casey was always the more powerful athlete in there. He's coming off a year suspension, for the so
yeah, it seems
he's old now.
Okay, good. Yeah, you were breaking up a little bit there. Yeah, no, it's all right. Yeah, Kevin Casey definitely coming off that year suspension off the Black House goodies. Taking a couple treats from the Halloween Bowl over at Black House there. Lucky he kind of got in his year suspension now instead of once the USDA gets on his ass about it. A good showing for him. He'll get another decent name fight. Alcantara is not really someone people take too lightly, but not really the Alcantara that people truly respect all that much. So gives himself an opportunity to win another one. And finally, the opening fight of the night, and I thought probably the KO of the night until Mir's little move on Duffee was Lima Good in his debut knocking out Andrew Craig. Andrew Craig, a guy who's been involved in some okay fights and had some moments, but is not by any means a world beater. But Lima Good looked damn good.
Well, since it was the only other knockout, I would have to agree with you. Yeah, but the line good, I should say. He had a good performance. He showed some good striking, some decent takedown defense. And Andrew Craig, that's probably his last fight in the UFC. He's probably gonna get cut now. Probably a few weeks anyways. Probably see that he got cut from the UFC, and we'll get another opponent in probably a few months. Get to show up in his sophomore appearance, see if he made some more improvement or anything, but we'll see where he goes. He can be a fight pass prelim guy or something like that.
I think we could see some more progress out of Good, and really see him evolve as a fighter, and big things. Okay, so let's talk about the card overall and wrap this thing up. Put a bow on it. Let me get your grade A to F for the entire card as a whole, including the prelim.
Grade on what? I'm sorry.
An A to F, A, B, C, D,
yeah,
F.
On what?
On the whole card. Watching the whole thing.
Oh. Probably I'd have to give it a maybe.
Give it a C?
C minus, maybe.
Okay.
The rest of the whole card as a whole, there's
a lot of stinkers.
Yeah, like the main event was gaining, and then the co-main event, Thompson showed a lot of heart, but we saw the rise of Tony Ferguson.
Actually, in the co-main event and the main event, I judged really highly. I gave them both A's, just because we're so dull for the rest of the card, and that Holly Holm fight and the Manny Gambarian fight back to back were really a lot to have to deal with. And a lot of grinding. So I was so refreshed just to see real, actual, action. The only action we had before that really was Alan Jabuan. So overall, I'm with you. I give this card, a C minus, maybe a C if you're really a big Frank Mir fan. All right, Mike. Thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate you taking the time late on a Wednesday. Why don't you tell some of the people where they can find you, your bets, and where they can find you on Twitter.
You can find me on Twitter at Mike MMA. Find my there, and like I said, you can find me on Twitter at Mike MMA Picks. can be reached anytime. So yeah, just hit me up on there.
All right, thanks a lot for coming on, Mike. We
You're
appreciate your
welcome.
time, and yeah, good. We'll have you on again soon. All right, brother.
All right, thank you, brother. See you
All right,
later.
take it easy, Mike. All right, that was at Mike MMA Picks on Twitter. Mike James. You can find his picks that he sells on Furious Fight Picks. That's FuriousFightPicks.com. He's one of the top selling bets on that website. Once again, thank you, Mike, for the time and everything. Overall, pretty dull card for Wednesday with lowered expectations. An okay night. Not the greatest thing. I mean, clearly the big takeaways is Frank Mir's second KO in a row. So for some reason, we will see a major headline MMA fight involving Frank Mir in 2015 yet again. Who would have thought it? But then again, Andrei Arlovsky's going to fight for a title, so the UFC heavyweight division seems to be like the division of fuck it. Tony Ferguson emerges as a contender in the 155-pound division in a nifty little performance against an aging Josh Thompson, and Al Jabran, the babyface boy, continues to be a murderer. Thank you guys for stopping by and watching the show late on a Wednesday. Appreciate everyone's support as always. Thank you to at Mike MMA Picks for coming on the show. Even though he didn't show his beautiful face, we appreciate his time. And thank you guys for your time and coming over and everything. All right, hit me up on Twitter. I'm at the Clown Kid. I'll see y'all around. Peace.